What's up? I'm going to show you how to install these rear side markers on a 2017 Nissan GTR, but we're going to show you a little cheat way to do it, and it's going to save you a ton of time. Yo, what's up? I'm Chris, and you are at FlyRyde, where I build custom lights. I show you what parts I use, how I install them, and why I chose those parts to begin with. So this is the end of a big, long series all about GTRs. It's a GTR masterclass. I'm gonna shut up, dive in. You're gonna learn some cool stuff about pulling the rear bumper. So here's the common thing. People want to replace this. Now, this has LEDs built into it, and they're right there. The JDM units do not have that, so we had to modify those. And the other thing too is that these are the OEM taillights. So we're gonna change these out to our stage 1, which means to get these off the car, we have to drop the bumper, unscrew them from the bumper, and then swap them out with the stage 1 setup. So we're gonna do all of that, and instead of removing that whole bumper, I'm gonna show you just a quick way of cheating by removing a couple bolts right here, as well as the bolts inside the car. There's a whole lot of work to do, so let's dive in. There are 4 of these bigger clips, and then there's 1 of these little guys. That's what's gonna hold on this tray on the back of the trunk area. I'm gonna pull out that little section, and then we'll be able to access the actual taillight bolts and the bumper bolts as well. It's something to think about as you're working on these. These are all held into place by staples. If you rip on these parts or the trunk area, they're gonna just break apart, and they're never gonna wanna go back together nice and tight again. So be careful as you work on these pieces. When you remove them, set them to the side, somewhere where they'll be out of your way for a little while. It's totally worth taking this step so you can access all the bolts back there. Okay, so here are the main connections that we're gonna undo. First is the taillight. That's the easiest thing. Now we've got an 8mm nut here, 8mm there, and another 8mm up top. That's gonna hold on to the actual taillight. Then we've got another 2 8mm nuts up here that holds into the top of the bumper, as well as this one right down there. So that's 5 total. Let's get those off, and then we'll move on to the other side. All right. I can't get the big tool in there, so I'm gonna use a little hand ratchet. I have the 1/4" 8mm. All right, so there's our 5 nuts for the driver's side of the car. We'll do the passenger now. These wire harnesses, they have a little grommet. That'll actually keep the bumper attached to the car because the taillights are attached to the bumper. So now we've actually got everything disassembled inside the car. We can move back outside. So we're gonna wanna pop that joint and this joint now that we know that that's been removed and the 3 anchors inside those taillights have been removed. And then we get to go under the car. Lucky us. All right, so far we've got 3 little clips. We've got a 10mm bolt and 2 12mm bolts. That is for just the section under there. And we've got this section with the diffuser. That looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips, and then a total of 2, 3, 4, 6 12mm bolts. That's what we're gonna take off, then the 3 clips and 3 bolts over there. All right, the next step is there are a couple screws. There's one right here, one right here, and all that we really want to be able to do is remove the minimal amount of screws. So we're gonna do this one and this one down here at the bottom. We're gonna be able to pop this part of the bumper out, mask off the body of the car right here, and make sure that this doesn't come into contact with it, but we're gonna hinge the whole bumper downward. So this will come away from the car, this will go up above this section right here, and it's gonna give us enough room to get those taillights off of the bumper itself, as well as these side markers, swap everything off, put it back on, and we'll be good to go without having had removed the whole bumper off the car. These 2 clips hold on the little carpet behind the actual tire that blocks access to the screw that we want to get to. There's one last little screw we can take off by hand. It's plastic. It's actually a little plastic nut. Get the carpet, pull it forward towards the wheel. That will give us the first little peek behind this fender liner right here. That's our 10mm. It's actually a screw, very much like what holds the bumpers into place in the front. So if we want, we could actually pop this guy out now. We're not at the point where we need to do this yet. When you do this, you want to kind of flex downward on it and pull away, because it has the little part that screw goes into. It sticks down, and it actually will fill into this little section here. So if you just pull straight out, it's gonna break this tab right there. definitely make sure you flex it down enough to clear it, and then you can just yank on it like you saw me do right now. And then last, we've got a little 10mm little nut. Once that is out, this guy right here, we're gonna wanna lift up on the little metal bracket that's in there. It has a post aiming straight down. The bumper has a little tab in there, and that bolt is going through the tab. Now we're clear on this lower section. I'm gonna move over to the other side and do the same thing. We are going to remove tail light, and we can see right there that we're being very careful of. We're gonna remove this tail light. Now, super important on this step, these lights are expensive. The last thing that you need to do is to scratch these expensive lights, or to scratch this expensive car with this expensive light. So make sure you don't do either of those bad things. Got it? Looking good. We're gonna open these things up in the oven now. Yay. Meanwhile, we're gonna swap out these side markers here, which are also held in place by 2 screws. So we've got a tab down there. Got one on bottom, one on top, a 10, and a little plastic clip right there. I'm gonna take those off real quick. Okay, now when you take out that little plastic clip, make sure you're holding on to the side marker since nothing is keeping it there. Up she goes. That is good. That is not being modified, that is being replaced with this guy. So this was stock. This is gonna be the new one, which also has a super dope LED strip you can see from this angle, but not from that angle, because it is weird. I mean, that was it. Now it's just reverse of everything I just showed you, with the exception of the wiring for this, which I can do now, but I'd probably rather start on those taillights. So I'm gonna do that, then I'll come back and I'll get these going. Okay, so we are gonna heat the oven up right now. I'm gonna have it at 220. This is kind of a scary one. You really don't wanna overheat these things. We're at 88, we got a minute to heat them up. We have our black rubber butyl in here, and that's what I'm gonna use because I just think it's the more efficient way to go, and no one's ever gonna see it except for, I don't know, thousands of people on the internet. And these are the internals that I'm gonna use. So check it out. We've got these dirty stock taillights. Now, something very important I think a lot of people need to understand that they don't understand. I'm not trying to be cocky, just trying to say I know weird stuff. All right, the insides of those look super perfect. The lenses look super perfect. They're from a 2017 GTR. They look great, but they're not actually perfect. We're gonna find that there are some little scratches and little scuffs inside or on the actual lenses themselves. The only way we're gonna be able to actually see that is once that chrome inside is out, that black is inside there instead, and we'll have the contrast of all of the little scratches and the clear plastic against that black background. Right now everything's chrome, so it just looks perfect. It's a great way to hide blemishes, keep everything factory in chrome. As soon as you go black, you're gonna see all the bad stuff that's in there. All right, so while we wait, we're just gonna do the typical inspection, check everything out. I am gonna actually dust these things off because they are freaking disgusting. Probably need to go turn on my compressor. So I'm gonna go do that. Come back, I'll clean them, take the screws out, get them ready. Also, while I was waiting for the compressor to come on, I came over here to do this side, and I realized when I pulled this thing back, dude, I have so much space. I didn't even have to think about taking that thing off. That tail light came off super easy. So we are going to recommend you don't take off that little bracket. I'm glad I know how to do it. Just don't do it. Just in case you do want to take it off though, just so you know what this thing actually looks like, the little clip on it is very interesting. It's just something that goes in by pressure, so there's nothing to really push down on from the sides or anything. I just saw that if I pulled up on it, it actually started to wiggle from the bottom, and then I pushed down really hard on it, and it came down a little bit, and yeah. Also, one other interesting thing to show you is if you are ever planning on doing anything with removing this bumper, you're gonna have a bunch of stuff that you have to unplug. A lot of them all have rear cameras and other stuff, so yeah, in our case, check this out though. Like, I just put that black bracket back on, but we got a ton of space, and it's all because it's hinging. We're not removing the bumper, we're just installing side markers. So when your dude tells you it's gonna take all day to do it, show them this video. You know, should only, if you're not filming a YouTube video and trying to teach people stuff, should only take you a couple hours to do this. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, 5 minutes is what you're gonna wanna heat these things at, and then you're gonna wanna check them. Okay, I'm gonna check. Feels good. It's freaking hot. Now, this is kind of a difficult one because you could break this lens in half, like easy, for sure. So what we're gonna wanna do, I don't like to pry on the lenses, as you might know if you watch any of my content, so I like to pull up with my fingers and push away. Tomorrow my hand is gonna hurt like crazy right here because of this. Really hard. I'm using my nerd muscles here. You can slip, you can stab yourself, you can scratch the plastic. A lot of stuff can go wrong here. So instead of just continuously going down, I'm gonna go back across the top and then I'll go down the other side. So if you see, I'm pushing, I'm not even prying. Just kind of moving the plastic out of the way and then just shoving the tip of this driver into the tab. And when it's upside down, you gotta be crazy careful because you've got tabs now that are aiming down and they're warm. So you don't want to break these off, right? Be careful. Last, we've got this side again. Give that a little help. Go back across and we should be about ready to go. That's the process. I mean, really heating these things up. You don't want to heat them too much. And this glue is so stringy, your chances of hitting the chrome are sky high. Definitely want to be careful. Okay, so this part is up. That, if you look in there, is actually, that's inside the channel. Better to go underneath it and then scoop up than it is to go down, because you've got all that chrome and fancy stuff down there, especially the clear little pieces of plastic. You do not want to do that. Very, very important. It's weak right here, very weak. Don't ever pry from that side or this side. Pry from the middle. So right now, I'm moving it away. Pick up all these little stringies. And I'm pushing it away from the middle, not the side. It's gonna get harder in a second here. And I'm looking, all that's just chrome, just begging to get stuck to. I'm trying to be somewhat quick here and talk, which is hard. It's freaking hard to talk and make any sense and not be terribly boring. You ever see that Ben Stye, the guy that just goes, clear eyes, super monotone voice? That is what happens to me when I'm not paying attention, trying to have a personality. You know what I'm saying? Some girl the other day on a YouTube video, her comment was, boring. And I looked at her picture. She looked like a sweet young girl, whatever. I was like, your face is boring. And that made me feel wonderful. And then she had some other actual comment, like, oh, it's just kind of slow, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, it really was. Old video, kind of boring, kind of hard to infuse personality into this stuff. And like, I legit am concerned at this second that my left hand is gonna drop it, that my right hand is gonna scratch something. So don't take my lightheartedness like that's just how you should be. There's my dope lens. One of these is about 500 bucks, so don't mess it up. We're gonna take this bad boy to the side, and no, there are no clear lenses that you can just buy. You can get some aftermarket lights for about $1,000 and take the clear lenses from those and stick those on top of these OEM lights. I've done it, it's super cool, it's ungodly expensive, and super hard to open those up without them melting, so let's just not do it. Okay, this next part I absolutely recommend using some gloves for your hands, because we're gonna be taking off little pieces of clear plastic that cannot be cleaned. We can blast them with air, but we can't really do anything else. Let's just not leave fingerprints. That's also why we dusted them off, so that as I handle this thing with these on, it's not gonna create some sort of a transfer of the dust. Say no to dust. All right, damn it. 5 screws, time lapse. Okay, intermission on time lapse. Before I finish, I want to show you that underneath, let me get this glue off. Okay, so right here, if we twist that guy, we're gonna see our circuit board. We're gonna want to disconnect that so that it can actually go forward. Otherwise, we'll take off the last screw and the whole thing will be stuck to the circuit board. Don't want that. 5th screw. And now we can take out the internals straight out. Now here's another important thing. You don't see this when you're looking at the car. It's covered by the bumper. So do all things, hold it from there, and look at that thing is really hardcore. I'm just gonna pump a bunch of sealant from that bad boy into this, and then we're gonna transfer all of this stuff and that stuff to those black bezels, and literally then we'll be done. So let's just go for it. Now this is a nice clean flat surface, so I can, if I want, make sure that there's no new dust on there. Cool. And now I'm going to take everything off. So we've got the circuit boards, 3 screws each. Then we've got the circular lenses, and notice I am pushing down on that, and I shouldn't be. I think the problem is that it seems like it's flat and it's not. You really just want to take all the parts, all the screws off of this. The easiest thing to do for these guys is to just unplug them from top and bottom, and then unscrew the middle. We'll just transfer that guy straight over. And so this is ready to be lifted off. This is ready to be lifted off. And now we've got the other screws and stuff. And I'll show you a couple different ways. I'm gonna do it the way that I do it. You're gonna do it the way that I probably think you will and suggest you do. These are the halos. So they're basically slip fitted right into there. Don't mess those up. I mean, they're super dope. All right, one more here. Just be careful when you go to take it out, because this next step is crazy. So we need to get that clear lens off. If you can't tell, there's a clear lens right here. There's nothing right here, just this little insert, which is coming out. So unlike on this side, where all we have to do to get rid of that is take a screw out, right? We don't want that guy anymore. I got a whole bunch of them. If you ever mess one up and you want them, I got some. But yeah, this side, not so much. What we need to do is get some pliers. Now, these pliers are super dope. I love them. They come in a little set. They come along with these little flush cutters. These two together, like 20 bucks, something like that. Super good tool to have. In this case, what I want to do, I want to find these little tabs right here. I want to pinch them and squeeze them down with the same motion. Now, you don't want to go ham on this, because if it falls out the bottom right now, I'm going to feel like a jackass. But if I'm careful, I'll be able to get it just close enough. When I flip it over, I can take the rest of it out with my hands, which is good that I have gloves on, because this is so scary. It's the last piece that's going to go on before we finish the black part. That is going to go into a box where we're going to protect it. The box I recommend is $1 from Home Depot. It's a shoe box. I'll show you now. So I love these things. They cost $1. You can get a ton of them, label them, and boom, you're all dust-free environment. Set this guy carefully aside somewhere else. You can do that with all the different parts. In this case, I'm gonna reuse them. I'm gonna have them back on the car very shortly here. So not super worried about it. I'll set them over here and we'll get back to this. All right, so the last little step here, we're not actually gonna mess with. I am gonna drop that little bulb holder cover thing out of there. All right, this is how I like my lights. I can use any LED bulbs right here that I want. We can shoot these things in black. They look great. You can see the actual LEDs, so you get a lot more intense look, but we have one part left on them, and we can't just take a screw out to remove them. If you look, they are melted in place in a couple different little sections. Now we can use the flush cutters. I'm gonna use the ultrasonic cutter. I guess I will take the camera over there and show you that. All we're gonna do is just cut right where it's melted. Now I should just be able to pry it straight down, so that's it. That guy is off. Other side. Try to pick again. Booyah. All right, we're in business. This is ready to go to a paint shop now. I don't want to mess with this anymore. I don't want to paint. I don't want to do anything. I just want to take the cool stuff off of it. Go finish this damn GTR. Okay, so you saw that the one thing was melted on. What we need to do is melt it back on to this black one. So for that, I've got this little crappy old dead soldering iron. I use this to melt stuff. I'm gonna plug it in, get it nice and hot, and then we'll push everything back into place and get it ready. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put this side marker in, but before we do that, we're gonna make a hole on the little grommet from these taillights so that when we mount them, the wires from this can run through the wires for that into the switchback module for this and hook up to the tailless turn module from that. You'll see. Okay, so this is a tailless turn module right here. For our stage 1 side markers, we're gonna use this little pigtail that's attached to the wires. So the way this is gonna work, this is just gonna go right in between the regular taillight plug and the vehicle harness. So if you ever wanna put it back to stock, you literally just unplug both ends, put the stock back into the connector like it used to be, and it's all gone. So very, very simple way that we can power everything that we wanna power. I'm gonna install it, you'll see it, and then we'll get to test the car with it on there. That's gonna kill. That is gonna kill. People are gonna freak out. They're gonna be like, why are you doing this to me? Why? I don't understand. Next important part is making sure that my wire from the side marker can run through my cut in the grommet. If this bumper ever has to come off, it will suck for the installer, but I'm not even worried about him right now. It's gonna suck for him anyway. Unless he watches this video, right? We're good to go. Now we just gotta lift this bumper, get it back into position to mount. Okay, really quick, before I go ahead and test everything, I need to put in my tailless turn module, which again has the wires tapped for power, ground, and turn signal. Plug one end into the factory harness, plug the other end into the taillight that we just ran the wires. Hook up my little switchback. Actually, this is the module for the diode dynamic strip that's installed. Another video on that up there. Yep, up that way. And plug it in, test them, and then I'll put the bumper up. Oh, so good. So good. So to be honest, a substantial amount of work was done to this car while it was here. I'm really digging the new tails. I like the side markers. I like that the bumper was able to tilt down and back up. That was the first time I've done it 2017. Also, it's the first time I've done it solo, minus the extra few hundred eyeballs watching, but I'm totally alone here. I came back, it's actually late at night. I went home, hung with the family for a bit, came back, and I'm finishing up this video for you. And I don't know, I just think it all went really well. So I'm gonna go ahead, button everything up, tighten all the little nuts. We got, I think, like 10 nuts, 12 nuts, another 15 plus bolts per side. Just gotta get it done. This will be a time lapse, and then we'll actually show off the car. All right, I've got one little piece to put back. It is this guy. I will say this, it is not fun to remove these things. It's not fun at all to put them back in, but it feels really good that that one side is totally dialed and this car is just ready to go. I would say this part actually takes the longest out of everything because we've done everything nuts and bolts, just use the tools, use the stuff. And yeah, this is a little bit more finessing it. So I'm gonna struggle to put this thing in really quick. So here we go.